connection to the simplest practice will yield you the greatest results. You know, as much as I am such a big fan of esotericism, of occultism, esoterica, I believe I was supposed to say there, fundamentally I find myself getting more control, more jurisdiction, more agency in my life when I fundamentally execute on the principles here. And I will allude to some of the tools that you can use a little bit later on, but the premise of this video is really those three words. It's control, it's agency, it's jurisdiction. A lot of your, not a lot, not a lot, all, underline that word, all of your problems stem from your inability to control your inner emotional state. Now, there are weapons that have been used against us as men, especially over the last, what would you say, 50 years or so, that make that more challenging. I will highlight them here. I will also give you, towards the latter end of this video, in my opinion, the most potent tools in order to deal with them. And I'm talking all form of addiction. I'm talking, you have said to yourself, 2024 has come, I'm gonna start going to the gym, Joseph. I'm gonna go every Sunday, 2 p.m. Maybe I'm gonna do a run. Maybe I'm gonna hit the weights. Sunday, 2 p.m. comes around, can't execute on that, because the structures in your brain that are associated with discipline, execution, and building those future habits are fundamentally weak. You're going to the gym trying to bench press 100 kg and you haven't even done 60 yet. So here's how we start to lift some weights with our minds, and fundamentally with the most potent force we have in our existence, which is the force between your legs. As crude as that sounds, let's start off over here, gentlemen, with fundamentally understanding where male consciousness is at this very moment, and it is not in a good place. In 2024, I like to characterize it as the darkest night of the universal soul, of the universal masculine soul. You heard of dark night of the soul. Maybe you've had a dark night of the soul, but we are in this consciousness now where some of these figures down here are scary. 63% of men are single nowadays. The prevalence of emotions like apathy, like depression, like anger is all over the place. There is a loneliness epidemic. You know, I'm going to refer to some of these very heinous industries like Only or Lonely Fans right now, because that's indicative of the culture it's trying to supplement. It's not just a sexual problem. It's not just deviancy in that respect. It's indicative of a culture that is sick, of a culture that is lonely, of a culture without love. I know that sounds very Disney, but the most important aspect to this physical realm and the realm that transcends that is connection, is heart-to-heart connection, is love. And there is no love nowadays. When is the last time you were deeply in love? Not in lust, in love with a partner. And many men are outsourcing this loneliness to individuals who they believe are selling them love in that way. Intimacy, maybe another way, more scientific vernacular, you can use to parcel it up and understand it. But it's not just a sexual deviancy problem. I really want you to understand that. It's indicative of a culture that is out of love and in lust. Men's mental health is strangled by the absence of spirit. I have been quoted many times in saying that if you dilute the spirit of a man serves only his flesh or his sexual identity, right? This is why I believe it's dangerous to be an atheist. I believe it's fundamentally dangerous to be an atheist because you become very nihilistic very, very quickly. If you don't have in your value pyramid your God, your deity that transcends you, then what happens is you put yourself there and you only serve your pleasure and you only serve your sexual pleasure in that way. And then use other people as a means to gratify that particular need, and you add more and contribute more to the problem. I'm going to make a good segue here to some of the red pill influencers who I believe are sullying the market, who are contributing to your mental health, who I believe, and I'm not your God, I'm not your father, I'm not any kind of authority that I believe that you need to subscribe to, but I do believe that I want to impart on you some kind of intelligence, some kind of rationalization, some kind of some kind of wisdom in order for you to discern whether or not consuming certain ideals is beneficial for your life or not. And one of those individuals, I don't believe, adds any benefit to your life whatsoever, are going to be red pill advocates who propagate promiscuity in their particular message. And those individuals would be, I mean, the classic one for me, and the one that's just coming up to the top of my consciousness because he's been on the X platform very, very recently and has been promoting this promiscuity on that particular platform is, I believe his name's Myron from the Fresh and Fit podcast. And part of his criteria of what he believes every man should aspire to is to sleep with at least 50 women before they commit to any kind of monogamy. Now, in my personal opinion, that is a heinous doctrine. I believe it is absolutely terrible. I believe it is ungodly. I believe it's unmanly. I believe it is undoing of your grand nature and contributes to the problem that so many men are having. It contributes to apathy. It contributes to depression, this anger, this loneliness especially, and this feeling of being fundamentally alone. Why is this the case? Well, you know what's interesting about this particular individual is that I believe he was raised Muslim, but I mean, that doctrine, is that consistent with any kind of faith? Is that consistent with their God, with Allah, with this idea that, you know, if you're sleeping with 50 women, these women could be other men's mothers, other men's sisters, other men's daughters? Is that treating them with the dignity and respect of Allah's creation there? This man was raised Muslim, and, you know, he rejects those particular godly and divine premises for his own very heinous, individual, selfish, self-gratifying, grandiose ones. And you can do what you want, but I just don't believe that's particularly morally upstanding, and I believe it contributes to a society and a future in which propagates the thing that is, well, fundamentally leading men to the top of tall buildings and jumping off them as well. But I'd be interested to know what you think. Do you guys watch that kind of material? Is it valuable for you? Do you subscribe to that kind of doctrine? And I'm really, it's interesting to me. I know that there is a marketability to saying the most outlandish, the most immoral, the most ridiculous stuff, because that always gets the most clicks. Obviously the path in the middle typically doesn't, but it's strange to me how individuals flock to creators like that, because I don't believe they give you anything valuable in that respects, long lasting. So guys, I am going to segue into how we can move away from this. I am going to give you some practical tools, some of which I've already shared with you at the start of the video, and how we can start to mitigate the presence of lust in our lives and defend ourselves against these kind of advocates like the individual that I just mentioned previously, like these industries of lonely fans and the prevalence of adult material so pervasive throughout our cerebral culture. And I mean cerebral culture in the sense that it's on the screens, it's on the tablets, and it's on the laptops, it's everywhere. Even the ads nowadays, I mean, if you go onto a very PG platform, the marketing will get you with gym wear for women, and you know, there's always a sexual dimension towards it, and I think it's very distasteful. Now, here's the thing. Here's the most important message I need to convey to you before we go any further, is that a lot of people believe it's about the material in and of itself, about these individuals, but it's actually not. It's about the effects it has on you emotionally and spiritually and energetically, okay? That's the reason why a lot of men are trapped. That's the reason why they can't get out of this emotional hell. And that's the reason why you don't have any luck, any serendipity, any kind of synchronicity in your life. And I mean, you're probably thinking to yourself, Joseph, there are people in my life that I know that they just seem to hit every single power up. The analogy I was thinking of was some kind of race. You know, they're hitting every power up, they're hitting every jump, they're getting every single ring, and they're just getting lucky every single time. I don't know how I can start to emulate their kind of success. Well, I'll show you why. It's because it's all vibrational. One of the reasons people say, Joseph, is it really a big deal me watching this kind of stuff? The act in and of itself isn't. The effect it has on you emotionally and energetically is, because you're a spiritual being. You cannot get away from that fact. When you watch this kind of material, it brings your vibration to shame and guilt. That is the lowest energetic feeling a human being can experience in their life. It is so low on David Hawkinson's scale that it is often referred to as an emotional and a spiritual hell. So I've delineated this here. Guilt and shame, they have a vibrancy which is, again, indicative of a kind of spiritual hell. And if you're constantly in these low states, then bad luck will befall you, no good luck will come your way. This is the interesting aspect of how the universe works. Like, if you could see, here's something to think about. If you could actually see people's energy, you'd take what I'm saying a little bit more seriously. But because you can't pick it up with your physical senses, because they're non-physical, a lot of people don't take it, very, very seriously. But they take it seriously if somebody is looking very, very unattractive and looking ugly and has dark circles underneath their eyes, and you can tell there's something wrong with this individual visually, right? But I promise you, if you could see people's energy, like if you could see the energy of a 304, I mean, sometimes if you're an empath, or if you're, sensitive to the spiritual world, and if you meditate, if you do Tai Chi and Qigong and all these things, you can sense it anyway, that dead-eyed look. And even the guys who, again, their eyes are open, but there's no lights on upstairs. You hear it all the time. There's an energy about this person. There's a cadence about this person. There's something about it I can't quite pinpoint. I can't quite describe with words, because it's energetic. And energetic cannot be picked up by the senses. It's picked up by your intuition. It's picked up by your nervous system. It's picked up by your solar plexus. They say, I've got a gut feeling about that person. Yeah, because all those nerves are in your gut. And I'll show you how to increase your sensitivity to intuition in a moment. It's coming. I promise it's coming. So here's just the point again. Look, in and of itself, adult material is egregious. I do believe that. But you should be concerned not more about it in and of itself, but more about the consequences it does to your vibration. And that's a real thing. I know vibration has esoteric, wishy-washy, airy-fairy terms, but it's all real. It's all actually related to muscle testing as well, meaning if you're in a low vibrational state, you're physically weaker. Like like measurably, your muscles are weaker. But if you're above courage, if you're acceptance and courage over here, then you're actually stronger. And this has all been proved. You should read the books Power versus Force by David Hawkins, Letting Go by David Hawkins. It delineates all of this in much detail. If you want me to do a video on that, actually, let me know, and I can show you how it works. This is all the language of the body, and if you understand how to speak the language of the body, then you can communicate to your body in a more effective way. Think about that. Many people do not even know how to communicate with their bodies. It's mental. So now let's go into the practical effects of, if this is the perversion of the life force that we have here, how do we liberate the masculine soul? So first and foremost, there are some additions that I'm gonna put in here. I've saved this to last. I'm gonna sketch out the solution for you. But first and foremost, the things that you can do instantly to move yourself out of guilt and shame is getting dopamine from high vibrational tasks or actions. Okay. Now, the act of praying, it doesn't matter what religion you are, the act of praying has such a profound implication on your energetic system that it bounces you out of guilt and shame to courage and acceptance very, very quickly. If you do it in an honest, transparent way and you ask for forgiveness, it is amazing how good you feel after you pray. It does, again, not talking to the fundamentalists here, but doesn't matter what religion, the act in and of itself is a high vibrational act. You could pray to Krishna, you could pray to Allah, you could pray to Jesus Christ, right? You could pray to Yogananda, you could pray to Shri Yukteswar, right? You could pray to any of these individuals that embodies that idea of divinity, of God, of grace for you, and it will give you the same vibrational kickback. Instantly. Go pray after this video, you will feel amazing. You'll feel amazing. Same thing when you meditate. I personally, I do these in combination, and it's wonderful. Same thing when you fast. Amazing when you read scripture. If you read the Quran, if you read the Holy Bible, if you read the Tao Te Ching, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, if you read the Upanishads, if you read Torah, All these things oscillate at a very high vibration. There is a tremendous book called Levels of Energy. I'll get it, one sec. Right, here we go. Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. Here's Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. And this book goes into detail in respects to this energetic scale that I've been referencing here. Similar, the same one, I mean, it's a universal one comparatively to the one that is referenced in David Hawkinson's work. But here, he makes a very clear, you can test the vibration of certain books. And the highest books that vibrate at levels that are at divinity, hope, like the north of the scale, they're all scripture. They're all scripture. So when you're reading those kinds of books, you're instantly getting kickback out of shame, out of guilt, into acceptance and courage, right? So that's for instant. You can do this after, you could do this now, and you will feel your energetic level will just be tremendous, and you will have more strength, more will in the moments when these kinds of things seek to seduce you and put you back into anger, into lust, into pride. Now, the one that works on the biological level has to be breath work. It has to be training your prefrontal cortex, developing the gray matter in that area that is consistent with willpower and discipline, okay? So, doesn't matter what you do. A lot of people have said to me before, Joseph, can I do Wim Hof? Wim Hof might be a great place to start, because this is developing discipline, and also when you're getting more oxygen to the brain, you're keeping your prefrontal cortex activated, and you're strengthening systems, you're strengthening structures in your brain that are consistent with willpower, discipline, and control, and you're weakening systems that are dependent on reactivity, on impulsivity, and carnality. So you're strengthening control, and you're weakening reactivity. That's what you're doing when you're doing this kind of work. And this is consistent with all kind of addictions. You know, I used to have a smoking habit, bad smoking habit in 2018, 2019. I swapped it out for meditation and breathing habit. I have breath breaks. I take my breath trainer. This has a resistance on it to train my lungs because I'm working on my cardiovascular health. But I'll step outside and I'll do breaths. I'll do breaths like I'm smoking. It's not a vape. It's just getting high on your own supply, as Wim Hof would say. But this all develops the aspects in your chemistry. This is alchemy, right? To strengthen your prefrontal cortex and weaken the reactive parts in your system. And this is all from, I mean, the Hindus knew this many, many years ago. So with sexual energy, so speaking more specifically about the sexual components of this and how you can start to redirect, and you can see this as a very real act of transmutation, is they say, so sexual energy is classified as Shakti energy, right? Shakti energy. Some people call this Kundalini energy, whatever you say. Now, Shakti energy follows prana, life force energy. Prana is pneuma, it is the breath. So if you control the breath, you control the Shakti, you control the sexual energy. And this has been highlighted in Patanjali's work and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It's been highlighted in the science of pranayama, the science of breath. I believe that once you control the aspects of your breath, which is the branch between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, then you start to get access to parts of the systems that were previously automatic. Wim Hof proves this. He can influence the powers of his immune system, which is a automatic response through what? Breath. In the same way, you can have the same kind of control and jurisdiction over the sexual reflex when you master breath. So the one I would advocate you do has to be pranayama, which simply means breath and yama, control, breath control. There are many different types of pranayama. A really simple one that you can get started with is Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing. And again, I know the woo-woo with this is very, very high, but the nostrils actually relate to two different parts of your nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. You actually change which nostril you breathe out automatically through the day, depending on what part of your nervous system is being activated. So when you do this, you'll be able to control your states better in that respect. Or you'll have a better understanding of how your biology functions comparatively to which channel is open. And they call this Ida, I believe, and Pingala in Vedic terminology. And then the middle one is the Shimna. When these two are balanced, you open the Shimna, which is a different video on enlightenment, on the present moment, or self-actualization, on seeing yourself as the Atman. So that one is called, I'll post it here so you can see it, Nadi Shodhana. Please forgive the spelling, but if you get that, I'm sure you'll find it somewhere. And then one of my favorite ones, I'm still doing research in here to see whether or not there's some legitimacy to this, but CO2 retention, which is just simply just breath hold. It's called Kumhaka. Again, you're gonna have to forgive my spelling with this, but you can just research breath retention, a different kind of retention that is gonna help you with, I suppose, the retention that you want to. And this is gonna better develop your control over the body, because is there no other more powerful impulse beyond your sexual one than the one to breathe? And when you control this, you really start to get into the bones, into the very DNA of yourself, and evolve on a microscopic level. So guys, when I first learned about this, I was very, very frustrated because the answer was right in front of my nose in that respect. Do not underestimate the power of breath work. It has to be instilled in your practice. If you're already doing things like meditation, great. This makes your meditations deeper. If you do 5 minutes of breath work before a meditation, you will reach states in your meditation that you've never reached if you just did meditation for a year without breath work. Breath work is like pouring petrol on a fire and then the fire goes up, right? It's like rocket fuel for your meditation. Do not sleep on it. These aren't theories, they're facts. Speak soon.